Second question I want to ask you is this: do you pray?
Yes, of course. Alhamdulillah.
You pray how many times a day?
What the Quran states.
That was not my question. How
So,
many times?
I'm telling you what the Quran states. If you want to know what the Quran states,
How many?
So, okay, he asked me a question. I was trying to solidify my position. I want to say what the Quran states. So I'm going to get my information from the Quran. Give me a chance to explain myself. Well, apparently this is the platform where they have cordial discussions and they don't interrupt each other.
So
Okay.
that's 3 times. Can I clarify my position as you clarify your position?
Okay, what do you want to clarify?
So you said how many times you pray. I said
Yes,
it's
yes.
2. There's a contradiction between what I say and what you believe, which is 5. And I can provide the verses in the Quran to show why it's 3.
Again, you're trying to go to look. Wait, brother. The thing about me is, if you watch my videos, cordial discussion is no problem. When we start interrupting each other and raising our voice, and this is not something I don't do. You probably go to another channel and can do that all you want. I'm gonna engage with everything you want to engage with. Don't worry. But for now, I'm trying to understand your position. So listen.
So I was in the middle of explaining to him the verses that I used to show him how it's 3 prayers. And what did he want to do? Interrupt me. And now he wants to try to like poke at it because he has an agenda in his mind, which he tells the agenda. He'll tell you what he's trying to do. But at the end of the day, it kind of just backfired on him.
Take things step by step. I'm trying to
Okay,
understand
but-
your criteria of how do you follow the Quran. Now, you said you pray 3 times a day, and you quoted the verse of the Quran. You speak Arabic. What does tarafai means?
Tarafai, the 2 ends.
The 2 ends. So when do you pray exactly? Quran is not stipulated.
The 2 ends of the day.
Yeah, which time? Which time in the taraf? Which
Fajr,
taraf?
Maghrib, and Isha.
Fajr, Maghrib, and Isha.
Right.
Okay. طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل. What does the word zulafan mean?
It can be either the approachness of the night or part of the night.
A part of the night. Okay. So how do we know which part of the night? 8 o'clock,
But this
9
is the
o'clock,
thing.
10 o'clock, 12 o'clock.
Inna salata ala al-mu'minina waqtan. It's like there's a prescribed time. There's a prescribed time.
So I didn't went on there and I said that I am like the #1 Arabic speaker, nor do I have the Quran memorized. I'm trying going off the context of what I remember so that I could present my proof. But of course, now this has to be a test of recitation and a test of memorization. But instead of engaging with the verse that he knows very clearly because he's about to teach me how to recite it, he doesn't want to engage with the context. Now he wants to engage with literally what I would call semantics, is because of how you need to recite it. It's not about the context anymore. It's about the visual.
Time for the prayer. So when God
Where
is
is
saying
that? That's what I'm asking you for. Wait, brother. The thing about me is, if you watch my videos, cordial discussion is no problem. When we start interrupting each other and raising our voice, and this is not something I don't do. You probably go to another channel and can do that all you want.
See, now you're
إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. That's the thing about Hadith rejectors. They never are able to recite the Quran properly, unfortunately.
So God is talking.
So with his little like side comments that we can't recite the Quran properly and all this, I'm fine with people saying that because I'm engaging with the context. He doesn't want to engage with the context. With this said, I do want to show you some of the reasons why I was saying what I'm saying. Now, the actual verse is saying وَأَقِيمِ الصَّلَاةِ طَرَفَيِّ النَّهَارِ وَزُلُفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. So like establish the prayer, and you see it's a singular prayer. Like it's coming in a form of a singular prayer. So when you're establishing the prayer at the 2 ends of the day, that's one prayer at the end of the day, and it's one prayer at the end of the day. But here was zulufan, which he wrote in his thing. He said approachesness. So there's 2 meanings: either the approachesness of the night, approaching of the night, or the part of the night. Now, I did highlight for you to show you that this word here, zulufan, is actually plural. It's not a singular. It's not of a singular context here. It's a plural. Therefore, when I'm saying zulufan min al-layl, it can no longer be the approachesness of the night, or the approach of the night, because there's only one approach. But they quickly like to push it over because now it sounds like a little weird for them that it's has to be singular for them, even though it's clearly it's telling you it's plural. Now, in regards to this, and this is why we don't accept most of what they say, because they say, oh, we have a chain of transmission that like these people said that this is what the prophet said, and we know what these verses mean because the prophet said so, and here's our chain. Okay, now I want to show you in this specific verse, and this is like a proper tafsir. This is the exegesis of a person that they say his name is Tabari, and he's one of the this is one of the oldest still ongoing book that was written 250 years after the prophet. About 250 years is when they put this book, They say like this is one of the best tafsirs of the Quran. Right, so here we're just going to read it together a little bit. So because he's going to make a comment, I just want to show you how they, like you see, even in English, I make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes in Arabic. I don't work all day on my recitation of the Quran. And I'm okay with people making mistakes when they're reading, because we're, again, talking about the context. قال أبو جعفر, which is now, this is the person who actually wrote this. يقول تعالى لنبيه محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأقم الصلاة يا محمد يعني صلي طرفي النهار يعني الغداة والعشاء غداة والعشي. So here he's saying that God is telling his prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, peace be upon him, to establish the prayer, O Muhammad, which means pray the two ends of the day, which is the morning and evening. Okay, and now this is where the whole chain thing never made sense. واختلف أهل التأويل في التي عنيت بهذه الآية من الصلوات العشي. So the people of ta'wil, or like the exegesis or explaining or the interpretation of the Quran, they differed. So essentially they have a different understanding of what they meant by the evening prayer, because بعد إجماع جميعهم على إن التي عنيت من صلاة الغداة الفجر. So they're saying that, okay, so establish the prayer on two ends of the day. The majority of them are concise with saying that it's the morning, the fajr, and they have differed on what's the other side. Okay, but so and here you see he's gonna say that فقال بعضهم عنيت بذلك صلاة الظهر والعصر. So one side is the dawn prayer and the other one is the noon and the afternoon prayer. That's the other side of the day. Okay, and then here he's telling you the chains on how they like this is the chain. This is what they're saying as their hadith that leads back to the Prophet. So essentially what they're saying is the Prophet went to a group of people, gave them an interpretation of what this verse means, and then he went to a different group of people and they received a different interpretation, and then he went to a whole group of different people and gave them a whole different interpretation, and now it's this man's job, Tabari, to tell you which interpretation is right. So they paint the Prophet, like if what they're saying is true, they paint the Prophet as a person who goes around from person to person and says random things to them based on what these verses saying. Because there's not going to be multiple interpretations. The Prophet's not going to change his mind a few years later. It's the exact same interpretation that he's going to go with. He has to be clear and he has to be honest. And as they say, of course, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salawatu wasalam is going to be the best person explaining to you what this Quran is saying at their time. So the first thing that they're saying, it's either the morning is one side and the other side is the noon and the afternoon. Okay, so and he gives you his proof, and then وقال آخرون بل عني بها صلاة المغرب, and then another people said that it's actually the morning prayer, and the other side of the day is the sunset prayer or the Maghrib prayer, right? So those are the two ones that he's, and then again he sits there and he tells you who said it, and then he says وقال آخرون عني بها صلاة العصر, and then some people are saying no, it's just the afternoon prayer, not the sunset prayer, but the afternoon prayer with the morning prayer. Okay, and then he gives you another set of people that are saying like this is how they interpreted it. وقال بعضهم بل عني بطرفي النهار الظهر والعصر بقوله وزلفا من الليل المغرب والعشاء والصبح. So some people, and there's even some people that are going that the two sides of the day is actually the noon and the afternoon, and then the zulufan, the parts of the night would be maghrib, so the sunset, the evening, and then the fajr morning prayer, which again someone else came up, and then he this is what he says. قال أبو جعفر وأولى هذا الأقوال في ذلك عندي بالصواب. So the most accurate for me in who was with وأولى هذا الأقوال, so the closest to me from what has been said in truth, قول من قال, whoever said هي صلاة المغرب. So he already established that one side is the fajr, the dawn prayer, and then he's saying that the truest statement here is the sunset prayer. Okay, so those two prayers. كما ذكرنا عن ابن عباس, and here he is saying that this is what the cousin of the Prophet allegedly said. And then he goes here, and he even goes, وإنما قلنا هو أولى بالصواب الإجماع الجميع على أن صلاة أحد الطرفين من ذلك صلاة الفجر. So he even goes as saying that like, so the first one is the Fajr. This he's regarding as a correct statement. And then he's saying that the Maghrib, right? And then here he's explaining why that he went with the Maghrib, and it makes sense from what he's explaining. I'm not going to go through all that detail, but I'm showing you the tafsir. His tafsir is saying, yeah, Fajr, Maghrib, and then now he goes, وَأَمَّا قَوْلَهُ وَزُلُفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَإِنَّهَا يعني ساعات من الليل. And then he goes, and when it comes to the parts of the night, it means hours of the night. Okay. And then he goes, explains what the word Zulafa mean, right? So he's explaining the word Zulafa. واختلفت القراءة في قراءة ذلك. So he's saying that the word Zulufan, there has been a weird, different recitations for the word Zulufan. And then he clarifies his position because it is a plural word. Again, plural. He's saying, it's like he gave you an example of غرفة غرف. So it's like the room and the rooms. غرفة غرف. Zulfata zulaf. Zulaf. So that's how he's saying that this is how he would recite it. And again, he وبنحو الذي قلنا في قوله وزلفا من الليل قال جماعة من أهل التأويل ذكر من قال ذلك. So yeah, so there he's giving you the proof that it's the hours of the night. So it's multiple hours of the night. And this is going by what I was explaining to this gentleman from this prayer, right? So I said there's two nights pray, or the Fajr, the Maghrib, and then parts of the night. So there's multiple prayers at night that you can have, but you have to have a night prayer. And the times now, we're going to discuss the times. But this is his own books. And guys, I could read Arabic. Shocking. Am I the best? No. I lived in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, Qatar, and Emirates growing up as a child. But my parents opted to put me in American and British schools. So I grew up with the Western curriculum, and Arabic was a second language that I was learning in school. The majority of the sciences and math and all the other subjects were actually in English, okay? But for me not to speak Arabic, then that person is a lie. Am I a perfect Arabic speaker? Absolutely not. Is it a second language? Technically, no, because I consider them both as a first language. But I'm not, even in English, I make pronunciation and problems when I'm speaking because due to something that these individuals did to me, not him, I mean like his sect of people, they did something to me in the history which wasn't nice, and I have a few issues because of it, like speaking, and I drew too much. But anyways, that's a personal issue. But they did attack me in a very improper way, put it that way. And with that said, like, yeah, so this is what I was trying to explain to this gentleman. But of course, he has a cordial discussion on his discussion where I'm apparently very arrogant and he's normal.
About 3 times of the day. And he also told the Prophet, we know that the Prophet used to stand a third of the night, half of the night, and 2/3 of the night. So there isn't a set time from when you can go through your night prayers, but the 2 set prescribed times is the sunrise and the sunset, because those are the important times of prayer. And now there's also Salat al-Wusta, which can go back to the Friday prayer that we do. But the question for you...
No. Wait, brother. The thing about me is if you watch my videos, cordial discussion is no problem. When we start interrupting each other and raising our voice, and this is not something I don't do. You probably go to another channel and can do that all you want. You're jumping from... You made multiple claims. And...
Well, he didn't let me finish the point. I said the word Salat al-Wusta and that like jumped on him. And because I even attached it to the Friday prayer, because I was leading up to a point to him, but he doesn't let me finish. And okay, so there's 3 names that are mentioned by 3 prayer names mentioned by name in the Quran. Salat al-Fajr, the prayer of the dawn. Salat al-Isha, the prayer of the evening. And Salat al-Wusta, the middle prayer. Okay, so people like to say that the middle prayer has something to do with the noon. But at that point, they're not being consistent with what the Quran and the Arabic culture and everything to do with how the day starts in their religion. Because the calendar day doesn't start with break of dawn. Okay, let's assume that the calendar day, a new calendar day, starts with the break of dawn. So that'd be the first prayer, right? Morning. And then the second prayer would be the evening, which would be Salat al-Wusta. And then the third prayer has no name. Okay, let's just say night prayer. So the middle prayer is the Fajr, and that's also Salat al-Isha, which makes no sense at that point. But if you go with a consistent mindset that the calendar day starts at night, and you could ask them, when they're doing the Ramadan and the Taraweeh prayer starts, so they go outside, they witness the moon, there's the crescent, today is Ramadan, they go to Taraweeh. So they start their prayers before they do the fasting. So they start the Taraweeh prayers of Ramadan before they do their fasting. Why? Because the calendar day starts at sunset, not sunrise. So now with that mentality, the first prayer is what? Salat al-Isha, Maghrib, which they call Maghrib, sunset prayer. And then Salat al-Wusta, the middle prayer, which is the night prayer. And then Salat al-Fajr. You see how the name is consistent with the Quran at this point? But I said it to him so I could lead it up to him. He goes, okay, how do you know it's Salat al-Wusta? And I would have been like, no, I said it to you so that you could ask about the Friday prayer. But then let's talk about when the day starts and I can show you how it's actually the night prayer. But of course, he has cordial discussions and he allows me to elaborate my position, because what they do is they realize that, hey, we have the Quran and there's this structure that we call Hadith, and this is the religion, okay? But they don't realize that we don't agree with this structure. So we have a structure that is based upon the Quran as well, right? We don't say that our structure is religion, but we're saying that the religion, the Quran, is dictating the structure. What they want to do is compare our structure to theirs and say, like, you see, your structure doesn't jive with us, so it doesn't exist. It's wrong. But what he needs to do, what's the normal thing to do, is someone comes to you with a structure. Okay, let's see if it aligns with the Quran. Because if it aligns with the Quran, then what you're doing has an interpretation that sounds valid and it keeps going. But their own system doesn't jive with the Quran. That's why we've rejected it. And we had to come up with our system that jives with the Quran. But they don't want to do that. They want to talk about system versus system, rather system versus Quran. And again, we're not the only people in history, as they like to point out, that pray 3 times. The Shias, which they like to put on a corner very quickly, the Shias are known to have either 3 times a day where they perform 5 prayers, or there is the Ismailis, the Ismailiyah, where they literally have only 3 prayers. And guess when their 3 prayers are? Which ones? Oh, it's the Fajr, the Maghrib, and the Isha prayer. Why? Because they said that's what the Quran is saying. Okay? And they literally call their Salah dua. So just so you know, for later on in the discussion, they're calling the Salah dua. There is not invocation about God and asking God about things. It's the standing, the recitation, the prostrating, and the bowing. So there is historical evidence, which he doesn't want to talk about, because I'm just telling him the Quran is enough evidence that it's 3. But no. He was later asking me about historical evidence, and I just didn't.
You built upon them, and I don't agree with any of this. You said very clearly that you believe that your way is the right way.
Muhammad, that's not what I said.
So you don't believe your way is the right way?
My way is more correct than your way, but I don't know the ultimate truth, just like how you don't know
so let's understand your way. Wait, brother. The thing about me is, if you watch my videos, cordial discussion is no problem. When we start interrupting each other and raising our voice, and this is not something I don't do. You probably go to another channel and can do that all you want. Now, why are you asking? Why are you so afraid of me asking you questions about what you do? Like, if you ask me, look, you ask me question, Muhammad, how many times do you pray a day? I'll say to you 5 times. If you ask me, when is that prayer, brother? Which time? I'm going to give you the exact times. I'm happily answering these questions. Now, if you're not willing to answer your questions, then do not come to have a discussion.
But I didn't ask you this question, so let me ask you a question so that I could clarify my position.
As I said to you,
you're saying no, this is not fair, Muhammad. This is not.
No. I said to you.
Guys, watch very carefully here, okay? So his clip is gonna keep playing with what he's saying, and then he's gonna cut my clip to show me as if I am upset. Like, he's gonna put me in a very bad like expression to my face to show like my ingratitude to him, or whatever he's trying to paint at this point. But his clip is playing, and he put it so that I'm in a position that I wasn't in, and you could clearly see that. Cut.
I will let you ask questions after I clarify your position.
Right there.
Can I ask a question so that we can keep on the discussion?
You were talking about prayers. You're either able to defend your position, and then you
I'm trying to defend my position, but it requires me to ask you a question.
So usually in a discussion, for me, for anybody to clarify their position based when there is a differentiation, you ask the person a question so that you could have him commit to his belief, so that you could match, to explain yourself on why you don't believe what he's doing. And this is why I took this route. This is how I clarify a position. Like, guys, it's not rocket science. This is a way that God even works in the Quran. God knows the answer, right? God knows the answer when he asked Moses, what's that in your right hand? But it's for Moses to clarify his position to God so that God will tell him what to do. Of course, God has the highest example, but God made the water come down and he made the earth come to a life, and we have trees. Therefore, if I take water and I put a seed in the ground and I put water on it, a tree came out. I learned from God. So I'm trying to follow my Lord's example. I'm asking him a question so that he could commit to his version of the truth, so that I could engage with it with my position, so he could see why I took my position. But are we allowed to ask Sunni's question? Absolutely not. Not during the discussion.
No. Wait, brother. The thing about me is if you watch my videos, cordial discussion is no problem. When we start interrupting each other and raising our voice, and this is not something I don't do. You probably go to another channel and can do that all you want. No. Look, I'm saying very clearly, if you come here, you want to come in front of the people, you want to talk about your belief, you should be able to answer your position clearly. When I ask you basic questions, you should answer. When you answer them, I'm happy to tell you why I believe in what I believe, why I believe in the times of the day, and everything you want to ask, I'll answer it. No problem. But first, we need to establish your position. Because if your position is dodgy, then there is no need for me to go to my position yet. Once we establish your position is dodgy, is not correct, is not consistent, then I will allow you to clarify and ask me questions and explain to you why your position is dodgy and why the position I'm on is correct. So now you said you pray 3 times a day. You quoted the verse of the Quran that addresses the Prophet. It's not addressing the believers. إن ربك يعلم أنك تقوم أدنى من ثلثي الليل ونصفه وثلثه وطائفة من الذين معك. طائفة, a group. والله يقدر الليل والنهار. So these verses that you're quoting, it says that you're not going to be able to do it. علم أن لن تحصوه فتاب عليكم فاقرأوا ما تيسر من القرآن. Read whatever you can. Nowhere there does it say read 3 times. It says that.
You see, I told him the 3 times of prayers from a different verse. I showed him the night prayer, okay, on where I get the understanding of the night prayer from this verse. And then he goes, oh, this verse is not talking about the timing of the prayer. You're wrong, because this gentleman doesn't want to listen to what I said. And you see how they go through the actual sunnah, the actual way of the Prophet. They quickly remove it off the Quran. The Prophet used to stand a third, half, or 2/3 of the night praying. This is literally his way, his tradition, his sunnah that's in the Quran. And they say, no, it's not for us. That's just for the Prophet. But God said, "Alima an lan tahsu," like you're not going to be able to catch up for the whole night, because the Quran, like, I mean, that chapter starts, Ya ayyuhal muzammil qum al-layla illa qalila, like stand the whole night, like pray the whole night except a little. But God is saying, like, I know they're not gonna be able to like do it, so He has already forgiven them. So, but He's telling you to push yourself in the night prayer. It's important, because that's how you can succeed in life in a very, very big shot. But this person just literally took the actual sunnah of the Prophet and he put it to the side. No, this is just for the Prophet. It's not for us to learn. It's not for us to do.
Allah knows that praying that long in the night is difficult for you. Now, nowhere there does it specify that the 3 times that you quoted. So you cannot jump from that. You say that Allah says that to the Prophet ﷺ, therefore these are my 3 times. And then you say you can pray any time in the night. And then you quoted the verse before saying that there is specific prescribed times. Right. So it's either there is specific prescribed times, or there isn't specific prescribed times and I can pray any time in the night that I want. Which one is it?
Okay, so when God is telling you to pray during the night, that is the specific time. The night prayer is the specific time. So He's saying,
because He's at zulufan, parts of the night. So you have, this is a leeway. Like, when do you perform the night prayer? During the night. When do you perform the morning prayer? During dawn. When do you perform the evening prayer? During sunset. Those are the times that you're supposed to pray. Technically, you should be able to pray as much as you can in the night. This is what God is literally telling you. And the more you pray, the better for you. But they want to make the prayer 2 minutes. Allahu Akbar, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, ar-Rahman Maliki yawmiddin, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdina as-siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim wad-dallin, qul Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, sami Allahu liman hamidah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu akbar, Allahu akbar. That's it. That's all they do. I see it like 4-minute prayers, most of them.
now, part of the night, that is when you're allowed to pray the night prayer. So you're allowed to start your prayer from when the night is ongoing. At that point, during the night, you have to have a prayer. So it's not a set prescribed time, and you can go up to 2/3 of the night. You have to follow the example of the Prophet, but you're not held responsible to go to a third or a half or 2/3. You have to go to the portion of the night. And the thing is, even this prayer, as God said, nafilatan lak, it's an optional.
So the more you do, it's optional, but you have to have a set time that you accomplish, and whatever you do extra is optional. But God is recommending, highly recommending for you, if you have the ability, that you don't have to go out and strive in the morning, that you're not a soldier, or that you're not sick, or that you're not sick, marada, علم أن سيكون منكم مرضى. Yeah, if you're not sick and if you're not like going through the day like striving in the name of God or fighting in the name of God, pray. Pray tonight, pray. You have no obligation in the morning or you don't have a set obligation, pray.
The verse that says أقم الصلاة has a command, and the other verse says it's nafila, it's an optional. So it's either it is something you have to establish to do iqama of, which is then an obligation, or something that is a nafila. Which one?
The nafila
وأقم الصلاة نافلة لك. It still makes sense.
is the time period that you're supposed to go. So the first prayer is about an hour. The second prayer is about an hour. You're supposed to spend at least an hour.
Where
on
does the Quran say that? An hour? Wait, brother. The thing about me is if you watch my videos, cordial discussion is no problem. When we start interrupting each other and raising our voice, and this is not something I don't do. You probably go to another channel and can do that all you want. Where is that?
Okay, so when does the
So he interrupted me. Now let's talk about the durations of the prayer. It's very simple. God is saying sunrise. So the break of dawn, which is the white line from the black line, which signifies the start of your it signifies the start of your fasting up until sunrise. That portion should be dedicated to prayer. The more you pray, the better. Pray the whole thing. But guess what? That's variable during the year. Why? Because the sun is a variable thing. Sunrise and sunset is not always the same. So it's the same thing with sunset. So there's a verse about the sunset, which I quote later, which is telling you from the decline of the sun, touching the horizon or after the horizon, all the way into the twilight of the night, which is about the same as the morning prayer. It's like a symmetrical prayer at the two ends of the night and two ends of the day, and do your night prayer. Like, it's a very simple concept that they try to complicate to make us look like fools.
when does duha start? And when does the sunrise start?
I'm asking you a question. You said the
I'm
Quran
gonna
says an
mistake
hour.
here. I said duha when I meant fajr. So I said like, oh, it's like the sunrise instead of break of dawn. But I corrected myself. He's just being so technical with certain things just to like interrupt the discussion rather than have the context, because he knows what I'm saying, but he just wants to be extremely technical to derail the discussion because he cannot attack the actual idea of what is being said. He wants to straw man.
It. You like
You're
I
asking
have
me
to
about
explain
duha.
the question so that you understand.
You're asking me about duha.
Yeah, so because that's usually duha to sunrise is about an hour, and then from the sunrise to
It's not called duha in the language what you call. You're saying fajr to sunrise. Is that what you're referring to? Duha is after sunrise. Anyways, look, you're saying from fajr to sunrise
fajr
is an
to
hour.
duha is about an hour, and then from the sun
No, it's
setting,
not. It's not.
it's about an
You
hour.
see, he goes, no, it's not. Like, he understands what I'm saying. Like, because of the, but now I have to explain why it is. Like, he goes, no, it's not, which he cut me off again.
It can be from any. It varies in the day. But God said, وَأَقِمُوا الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَيِ النَّهَارِ وَقُرْآنِ الْفَجْرِ كَانَ مَشْهُودًا. So God is
وَزُلَفًا
giving
مِنَ
you
اللَّيْلِ إِنَّ قُرْآنَ الْفَجْرِ كَانَ مَشْهُودًا. Please recite the Quran properly.
Guys, I'm not saying the whole recitation. I'm not sitting here having a recitation competition with this gentleman. I'm showing him, like, I'm taking the parts of the verse which matters to this, and I'm not saying it perfectly. I know I'm not saying it perfectly. But can we have it? Like, other people have had many discussions, even with like high scholars in Saudi Arabia and Egypt. They understand what I'm saying, and they don't correct me in a harsh way like this man wants to correct me, because they'll say like, oh yeah, this is the verse. He means carry on with what you're saying. I see that you're struggling. That's fine. Like, just carry on with what you're trying to tell me. But this man has no class.
brother. I'm giving you piecemeal so that we can go on with the conversation.
No, it's the
Just
words
listen-
of Allah. It's important.
I understand this, but please, like, just can you give me just a little respect so I can point the context without us going into, as you said, the semantics, as you said earlier.
Are you calling the words of Allah semantics? How
No,
to say it?
not. That's not my point.
Like,
I
are you how to say the Quran properly becomes semantics now?
I'm telling you, I'm taking two parts of the verse so that I can clarify my point. I wasn't saying the full verse.
That what you recited was wrong, so I was correcting what you recited.
Thank you. I
No, just-
appreciate it.
Even the
Can I get
part
to
that
the
you
point?
recited was incorrect, so at least recite the part correctly, brother. Khala,
God said-
recite the Quran.
It's so frustrating speaking with your side because you guys always keep doing this. Can we just have a nice discussion so I can, like, you're not going to change my mind, I'm not going to change yours, but let's have a discussion on what the truth is. I'm saying
You're
that
already
God,
close-minded.
I'm not close-minded. I
You
feel
said
like
I'm not
you
going
are.
to change your mind. Wait, brother. The thing about me is if you watch my videos, cordial discussion is no problem. When we start interrupting each other and raising our voice, and this is not something I don't do. You probably go to another channel and can do that all you want.
I feel like you are, because no,
Okay.
I have my proof. But here's the thing.
I didn't say that. You said that. You said you're not going to change your mind.
Okay,
Yeah, when he goes debates with Christians, he's not going to change his mind. He's not going to go to the lower the lower thing that doesn't make absolute sense. So for me to change my mind and accept your nonsense and your garbage is very far-fetched. I've seen more truth in what I do than what you're explaining to me. I'm a logical person. I am a computer programmer for the last 15, 18 years. I was I'm like in my city there, I'm very known for my accomplishment with what I did with computer programming. I'm an extremely logical based person. Boolean logic that fits very well with how the Quran works. If this, then this, else this. It's very simple. This is how the Quran works. That's why I love the Quran, because it fits with the logic that has dominated the world, which was what? The computer, the Boolean logic. But this man just thinks I'm stupid.
sure. Can we go back to me answering the question, or do you want to talk about everything else as usual?
Do you remember my question?
Yes, you're
was
saying where is it an hour in the Quran? When I said it's
Yes.
about an hour in the Fajr. The reason why
See, he tried to trap me here. He was like, oh, do you remember my question? Because he's thinking that I'm not paying attention to him. But God hasn't sealed my ears like him. God hasn't sealed my heart and my listening and my eyes. I'm paying attention to what's going on. I'm understanding him, and I'm reciprocating what I need to say from what I understand. So he tried to trap me. I didn't get trapped. Do you remember the question? Yes, about the duration of the prayer.
it's in about an hour is because God said from the Fajr, the Quran is being witnessed, and this is the time for prayer. And then the other verse that is telling you, but then you can correct me when I'm not saying it correctly. وَأَقِمُوا الصَّلَاةِ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ إِلَى غُسْقِ اللَّيْلِ. So that's another set prayer. غسق الليل. So that is a set prescribed time again for the second prayer. So those are two prayers that are almost symmetrical in nature,
So what time did the Prophet ﷺ pray in?
as what the Quran stated.
I asked you, what time?
The
In
times
the
that I
hour.
just
In the
described.
hour. What time? What time in the hour? did he pray?
Fajr, Maghrib, al
Yeah,
Isha.
within that hour that you're making from the Duha time, what time did he pray in it? Which time? 5:30,
The whole time.
5:45.
That's the whole
The
time.
whole he prayed for 1 hour.
Yeah.
So they have many narrations that the Prophet during his prayer, like the evening prayer or the morning prayer, he would stand up in one unit, which they call rak'ah, and read Surah Al-Baqarah, the chapter 2 of the Quran, the longest chapter. And he will read it, he will recite the whole thing. They have many narrations showing that. And there's so many other, like he usually when they say that the Prophet he read the full chapter. There's no like cutting and doing what they do in their recitation, 5 minutes and it's done and over. No, he would spend an hour. He would spend half an hour, 45 minutes, based on the length of these verses, right? And yeah, they have many showing the Prophet reading chapter 2. Chapter 2 takes anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half to an hour 45 to 2 hours based on your recitation style. So yeah, it's very clear that the Prophet did spend a lot of time. He wasn't like you guys, like bounce his head twice and then he's done and he's running out of the mosque, like insulting people smoking cigarettes, saying that, oh yeah, we're such good at prayers.
He prayed the times that he was supposed to pray, which is a portion. It's not like,
And not only that, the Christians, they'll tell you Jesus himself in the gospel used to pray around the same times, which was the night, the morning, and the sunset, and he would go for a whole hour. It was like, hey Peter, like you couldn't wait an hour while I went and prayed my night prayer. So I wonder why like Christians don't come to us. They go, oh, how do you pray? How's prayer? What about this? What about that? No, it's just, okay, he went prayed. Go pray. Like, this is what I'm not getting. This is where I see the disconnect with these people. Like, I did when I realized they were lying to me, and I realized that the stuff that I'm saying in my prayer didn't make sense. I don't need to talk directly to the Prophet if it's for God. The Prophet himself wouldn't have talked to him. Wa salamun alayka ayyuhan nabi, and peace upon you, O Prophet, in my prayer. So did the Prophet say, oh, wa salamun alayk, and peace upon me? No, he's talking to God. Like, that's the whole point of the prayer, right? So there's a few things that but I didn't say like, oh, like, well, how do I do sujood? How do I do standing up? How do I do? No, I didn't have these questions. So people when ask me these questions, I really don't get it. It's just go up and pray.
you guys do it.
So wait, brother. The thing about me is if you watch my videos, cordial discussion is no problem. When we start interrupting each other and raising our voice, and
Wait,
this is not something I don't do. You probably go to
Wait,
another
wait,
channel
wait,
and can
wait.
do that all you want. Read in the
Exactly,
prayer
exactly.
for 1 hour.
He could have, yeah. Well, it depends on how the day is for that, because the day is shortened and the night is long, depending on the day of the year. So, but the thing is, he stood the times that he was allocated to stay.
So the Prophet stayed for more than an hour in the prayer, according to you. And where do you get that from?
For Maghrib, yeah. Well, as the sun is setting all the way to Ghasq al-Layl, he
The gospel.
would have stayed in prayer, because that's what he was ordered to by God. Now, can I ask a question?
No, we're not that. How did he pray?
God in the Quran never said that وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الصَّلَاةِ, because you guys are trying to associate the structure of
asking me a
religion
question,
when
though.
religion is free of.
I didn't ask him a question. I was clarifying my point that in the Quran, God never wrote the words وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الصَّلَاةِ. They ask you about prayer, right? These people are, honestly, when it comes down to this question, it's like when the children of Israel were ordered to go cut a cow. It's very simple. Moses said to them, hey guys, go sacrifice a cow, cut a cow. Oh, which cow? What color is the cow? All the cows look the same to us. Which one? They asked so many questions when literally all they had to do was grab any cow and just cut it. But because they asked questions, it became a little bit more tougher, and they got confused and more confused. And at the end, they got such a nice cow that they didn't want to sacrifice it. But this is what these people are doing. It's like, oh, okay, go pray. How do I pray? Well, standing and prostrate. What do I say? Talk to your God. What does he want to hear? Okay, just just don't go pray.
Structure.
No, you're asking me a question for a question.
I didn't ask him a question. I actually didn't ask him a question. So repeat this. I'm telling him what the Quran is saying, and he's not listening. So he goes, you asked me a question. I didn't ask you a question.
Because you guys are trying to associate the structure of
asking me a
religion
question,
when
though.
religion is free and the night is long, depending on the day of the year. So, but the thing is, he stood the times that he was allocated to. As the sun is setting all the way to Ghasq al-Layl, he would have stayed in prayer, because that's what he was ordered to by God. Now, can I ask a question?
No, we're not that. How did he pray?
God in the Quran never said that وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الصَّلَاةِ, because you guys are trying to associate the structure of
asking me a
religion
question,
when
though.
religion is free of structure.
No, you're asking me a question for a question. You said there is a command to
I
pray.
didn't. I answered you. I said you're trying to associate structure with religion when religion is free of structure.
It's from the same source. So you, not us, where is your evidence of the Prophet? Sallallahu alaihi. This is the last time I'm going to ask. And
I
if you're not
answered
going to
you,
give an
though.
answer, I'll let you ask the question.
Can I ask
Last
the
time I'm
question?
going to ask.
I answered the answer. I'm not going to repeat it. Let me answer one question.
Okay,
about
so
the
you don't have
prayer.
evidence. Go ahead. You ask.
So here's the thing. So I did remove a part of the discussion because I don't want this video to be very long, and it's already getting quite long. But what I was gonna say is that he asked about historical evidence. We talked a little bit about prayer, but I just kept getting interrupted. I wasn't able to produce what I was trying to say. But he asked for evidence. I'll show you something that is very clear, which anyone with a little bit of mind can understand. So there's this gentleman called Montgomery Watt. He has no bias. There's no need for him to be a bias. He's a professor at a university in England that studied the material that was in front of him. And he made the conclusion, right, which is on this book, Muhammad at Medina by Montgomery Watt, which is available as a PDF. You can find it. On page 305 of his book, right, he wrote, which is a very simple thing, when the worship was stabilized by later jurists, it became obligatory for every Muslim to perform it 5 times daily. It is doubtful, however, whether the 5 daily hours were regularly observed even during Muhammad's closing years. The night vigil, popular with his followers at Mecca, was abrogated in Medina, and a phrase in the Quran shows that there must have been at least 3 hours of prayer daily. And there's many sources that state that, yeah, I don't agree that it was abrogated, but he's going off the same sources that gentleman was saying. But what I was trying to explain is that there are many sources that say is that the Asr and Dhuhr were some things that the Prophet offered himself. But because he offered them regularly, later jurists made it an obligation. That's the whole point. But because they just inherited their father's religion, Baba fil mosque, like the sheikh that's sitting in the mosque, he's telling them what to do and they just do it. They don't question it, because if they question it, sit in jail. Kafir. That's what they call him.